Welcome, everybody. Welcome to edTrends. Today, we will be talking about assistive technology for special education and for remote learning. So we're so glad that you are here. I am going to introduce myself. My name is Dr. Gina Riley. I am the program leader of adolescent special education at Hunter College, and I want Jerry to be able to welcome and introduce herself as well.
Hi, I'm Dr. Rivera Wilson from the University of Albany, and welcome to edTrends. I'm happy to have today our colleagues from Hunter College in the Department of Special Education to share with you information about assistive technologies. We will be doing a three-part series over the course of the summer, and Gina Riley and Dr. Hirschman will actually be serving today as the facilitators. But before we begin with introductions, let me give you a taste of what's going on this summer on edTrends.
Great. So welcome again, everybody. We are so excited to be here again. My name is Dr. Gina Riley, and we are so thankful that the University at Albany has agreed to host us, us CUNY Hunter people at Assistive Technology for Special Education. So I am going to have Mr. Kenny Hirschman, identify himself as well as give him an intro. It's really great. We will be moderating and facilitating, so please do feel free to collect all your questions and put comments on chat because we will be facilitating the chat, and then we will introduce our special guests. So Kenny, if you want to do your intro, go for it.
Sure. So my name is Kenny Hirschman. I am the manager of the Frankfurt Center for Learning and Scholarly Technologies at the Hunter College School of Ed. It's a mouthful. And we're very excited to be here. And thank you, Jerry, for inviting us to participate in this. So without further ado, we'd love to introduce Virginia Grida and Katie Taylor, who will introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. I'm Virginia Greida. I am an instructor in our special ed department at Hunter College, and I teach in our learning disabilities program primarily. I'm really excited to get to do this with Katie. Katie and I work together on basically her ed technology course, which is fantastic. And so you'll see today all the wonderful things that she brings to the table, but it's always fun to work with Katie, and we're excited to share with you today.
Hi, I'm Katie Taylor. I'm an adjunct. When you just heard from my colleagues, I work with new teachers and aspiring teachers in the special education department at Hunter, and we're so happy you're all here today. Let me share my screen. Oh, is there one more slide here and then I share?
It's all you.
Okay. All right. Can I have a thumbs up in the room if you can see my screen? Thank you. Since I'm presenting, I will have limited capacity to be able to see you all, and my colleagues are going to be monitoring the chat. But again, I am Katie Taylor. Don't forget we are recording, so if you do not want to be in our video, feel free to turn your camera off. And don't worry about those numbers up there in the corner. We'll let you know what to do with them when we get there. So this is our idea of a warmer. We'd love for you to caption this photo in the chat. My colleagues are going to help me hear what brilliance is coming up in that space.
Yeah, so I can keep an eye on this part of the chat. So we're asking you to take a look at the pictures and caption the chat put a caption that would fit with this photograph in the illustration in the chat. And as we see them come in, we'll comment on them. So go for it.
Should we let folks know that we're going to vote on the best?
We should, I think. Yeah, I think we should. So you can think of this like in Story of My Life. There you go. Someone said, yeah, you can think of this in relationship to your teaching, or you can kind of expand if something else strikes you first. There's no specifics to education here. We're just getting everyone engaged a little bit.
This looks like a little bit about my day so far today.
Oh no.
Drink that coffee mug with some matcha, and you know, like that's how my morning started.
I like that he's smiling. If it's the story of your life, I like that you're happier.
So me.
Just an average day of virtual learning, Katie, someone said.
It doesn't have to look like this in virtual learning, but
that's right.
I understand.
Here they come. So Lena says, when looking at the second picture in comparison to the first, the puppy's happy and his eyes look bigger and brighter. I agree. I thought that was interesting. Mia says, so you're saying that critical race theory is the biggest threat we are facing as the country? And Alicia says, this is how I feel right now.
Are there some,
my daughter was the grabber of the meme here. So she was like, are you sure? Are you sure this is good? She's like, yeah, it's good. This is someone says, a cup of something cool to cool me down, showing excitement. Thanks, Yolanda. Thank you all for chiming in. So what do we give another second or two? And then we see, Mia says meaning because the world is on fire and he's focused on his coffee. That's right.
Virginia, do you have like a couple favorites that we might lift up and put up for vote with the Zoom reactions and by way of reactions?
Yeah, so we had a couple. I think we should I think we're sort of obligated to pull the just an average day of virtual learning to throw that one up there, given the topic of our conversation here. And Ryan Keller added, teacher, that it's a teacher, right? And saying, at least they gave us free drinks.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that one might, let's pull that one, and let's pull the virtual learning one. So how do I get them to you?
I think we're just going to vote on them. So
okay.
by a show of reactions and a thumbs up. And if you don't have access to reactions right now and you're participating from a phone, like maybe just give us a thumbs up. But Virginia, what's the first one we're going to vote on?
Okay, first, so here are the two. I'll give them to you first, and then you can do your reactions the second time you hear them, okay? So just an average day of virtual learning, that came from Emmett Costello. Thanks, Emmett. And the second choice is what the teacher's saying, at least they gave us free drinks. So here comes the first one again for voting. Just an average day of virtual learning. Oh, wait, I think is that people voting for the first one? All right. And let the reactions fade so we can count. Okay. And then now we're going to do the second one, which is at least they gave us free drinks.
They're both so good.
They are both so good. Well done, everyone. And everyone else as well. Thanks for participating. So we almost have a tie. We've got 4. Gina Riley voted twice. But now that I can see all of you at once, oh yeah, totally you're out in the chat. At least she's honest about it. I think we have a 50-50 split. Can we have 2 winners? Does that work?
2 winners, absolutely.
Okay.
So thanks everyone for participating. We're going to do a little bit of processing how you are experiencing this presentation as learners. So we want to get you involved and your voice into our space as soon as possible. And this is one way that we were able to activate that.
Yeah, so today we're going to experience different technology, right? As learners, we're going to think on these experiences as learners, but we're also going to be thinking about them as teachers. It's sort of inevitable that we wear both hats while we're experiencing things. And so to focus on our work together today, we want to have 3 volunteers to participate and unmute, and just each of you will take one of our learning targets to share out loud with the group, so you don't only hear my voice and Katie's. Does anyone want to read the first one?
I know that green little box might be in there, but I'll tell you what the word is.
Yep, and Yolanda just raised her hand. I see Yolanda.
Thanks, Yolanda. That underneath that little green box, it says tools that.
Oh, you're muted, Yolanda. We missed it.
That's a teacher habit.
Me too. Go for it.
Sorry, number 1. I can name two tools. Okay, I can name 2 tools that will enhance my remote teaching practice.
Awesome. Anyone want to take the second one? Our group is shy, Katie. Oh, someone's clapping. Let's see. Mia, do you want to read it?
Sorry, I meant to raise my hand.
That's okay. It all counts.
2, I can explain 2 teaching strategies. Wait, did we just read that one?
Nope.
No,
That's
got
okay.
it.
They sound similar, sorry. I can explain 2 teaching strategies that will make my remote teaching more dynamic.
Awesome. So tools and strategies. And now who wants to read number 3?
I can read number 3.
Thanks, Carolyn.
I can connect how these practices will benefit my in-person teaching.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, volunteers. And with those learning targets, we have a little bit of framing questions that we want you to think about as you're using the tech tools or the links that you'll click on and try in the presentation today, or the strategies that we're modeling that we're hoping you'll pick up and take with you as you go back to your classrooms. We call them little teacher moves. And we hope that they will increase the engagement for all of your students, and especially to support your most special learning populations. This presentation will not focus on specific disabilities because each tool and strategy can be applied with all learners in most teaching scenarios. So with these two questions, we want you to keep them in mind as you're experiencing and clicking through the links with us today. So what two tech tools will help you support your special learners? And then what teaching strategies will benefit your special learners? Just as a little bit of framing for today.
All right, so we're going to warm up a little bit. We're trying to get you active and in the mood, right? Despite if you're listening in from your car or you've been waiting for this all day on your couch. And so Katie's going to share with us, we're going to do a warmer by making a word cloud, right? And we're going to use Slido to do this. A lot of these tools we're walking you through as learners, right? But we're going to share the teacher component so that you'll know how to use them as well, or at least be able to find them as resources. So through Slido, please join me. You're going to make 2 separate entries. What grade do you teach and what subject do you teach? And then if you're not teaching, you could type that in instead. And then we're going to see what trends we find here.
Okay, gotcha.
You've got some options for joining us. You've got the QR code reader, which if you have a second device like your phone, you can open up your camera, hold it to that black and white square, and a little link should pop up and you can click on it, much like the restaurants these days when they have menus, right? We've seen these before. But if you don't have access to that camera because you dropped your phone too many times, then you can join us at slido.com and just plug in this code 032378.
I'm doing it too. I'm not texting, just so you know. All right, our cloud is forming.
It looks like we have some folks who are not currently teaching, but that does not mean you can't grab some strategies for life or some tools
For sure.
to your toolkits. We've got some tutors. We've got a range of college, tutoring, high school. A little note about the technology. You're able to enter one word and then you get another choice where it says you can add a response, so you can plug something else in there. Right, the 2 prompts are what grade do you teach and what subject do you teach? And you know what? If you're not teaching, like, what are you dreaming about teaching? What subject are you hoping to teach? What grade are you hoping to teach? Here we go. The cloud is growing. This is a quick strategy to pull the entire class live with very quick one-word answers in this Slido technology. How about we keep rolling?
Yeah. I think my special ed teacher has to chime in for 2 seconds too. I think it's also a really good way for your maybe more reluctant learners to see what some other answers are first before they chime in. You guys might have experienced that as learners with the word cloud, but that came up for me too as we were practicing that.
And we might be like really putting folks on the spot today. It's 4 o'clock. Many of us worked all day today and you're tired and you're on to like your second job with your kids or babysitting or, just got in from taking your dog out, any and all of those. Done little pieces of each of them today. So I get that. And we're making you work for it today. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. But here we are. So Virginia's going to talk a little bit about how we use agendas.
Yeah, so we have our list here. We sort of paced out our time together today. And so you'll see we planned a 5-minute warmer with that tech cloud that we were building with Slido. And then in a little bit, we'll talk about an ethos, building community. So in person and online, that's important to plan that into what you do. And then we did caption this meme, right? So we started with an actual slide to kind of create this classroom ownership, hopefully with each of you. And we could and hopefully we'll debrief a little bit on that in the end about, how did that feel to be a learner in that process. We'll spend a couple minutes on the agenda, which we're doing right now. We'll go into our learning targets afterwards. Oh, no, we did that first. Sorry, we did that already. And then we're going to ask you in breakouts to take a look at some assistive technology via apps and other resources that you might use, and kind of put your teacher hat on while you're having your learner hat on and exploring with them. And then we'll bring you back to talk about them, and we'll have closing. Hopefully, as you're doing your breakouts, you can explore and discuss the tools. You'll be thinking about how you as an educator might use them. And if there's time, we'll talk a little bit about form and function and just kind of have a little group discussion around any questions you guys brought as well.
And just a couple, like a few notes on ethos before we move on from having this checked off. This idea of an ethos is that rules and norms are very common. When you walk into a classroom, you can see a list of rules posted. But in this remote space, there's nowhere to post rules. And so to invite students in and learners in to environments that are safe, that feel humble, that feel genuine and authentic, it's really important to set up some basic rules. And we've done this already by little teacher moves and strategies, right? We've asked folks to participate. We gave you the opportunity to start with the chat. We gave you the opportunity to give us some thumbs up, some thumbs down. And then we invited you in by way of like, oh, that was kind of fun. Well, here, let's push you a little bit further and join us in this app experience. And so now we've created this space where we really are a learning community, learning together, right? Virginia and I are here facilitating this session, but we are equal learners in this, right? We learned how to work together to have this presentation. The expectations are not perfection. We've already kind of goofed up our agenda a little bit, right? But that's okay, because modeling how those mistakes happen are part of this safe learning space. And that's why we call it an ethos. Keep rocking. So Bloom's taxonomy. We may or may not be familiar with Bloom's taxonomy in the room. So Bloom's taxonomy is a classification system used to define and distinguish different levels of human cognition, like thinking, learning, understanding. I have 2 triangles posted here. What is the difference? You've got the option if you're like, I've got the answer. Let's have you unmute and share what you think is the answer. If you're like not quite sure, pop something in the chat and let's just see where we are. What is the difference between these 2 triangles?
Okay.
My lack of little numbers tells me that the chat is quiet, but I can't see it.
The chat is quiet. People are examining closely the two triangles.
Yeah, should we use our teacher move to just like pause and wait?
We have 1 chatter.
Okay.
We have 2 chatters.
Here it comes.
All right, so the revised Bloom's uses verbs rather than nouns, someone said. That was Kenny. Thank you, Kenny. And Gina's noticing the ing ending identifying action.
Yeah, I'd like to kind of describe that difference of the ing and the verbs is ownership of learning. And we're between the original taxonomy and the 21st century taxonomy, there's this shift from teacher-led to student-centric with an emphasis on the hands-on and experiential learning. So too must we respond as in how we're teaching and introducing content, right? So the process is just as important, if not more important, than the outcomes, right? The traditional test where students take a quiz, they paper and pencil, maybe it's a little bubble scantron, is not the only way of measuring student mastery. It's really about what tasks the students are completing, that process and learning journey of how they get there, right? It's how students are making connections with the content so that they're creating their own problem-solving strategies. In the next few slides, we have some links to different applications that support each of the Bloom's verbs here. So we have applications that might support a task where you'd have students that create something as the outcome. You might have students that are evaluating two images, right? Like we just did an evaluation of these two images as an example. But each deliverable you assign students would be based on where you are in a given lesson plan. So if you have one topic, students might be creating different deliverables on each of these levels, right? And as you go from the bottom to the top, the tasks are getting a little bit more complex, a little bit more challenging, and really forcing students to lean into that process and that exploration. Did I miss anything, Virginia?
In the chat, there's a couple in the chat. So let's see. And Leanne was noticing it's an ongoing process or hints to be in the leader. And then Yolanda was saying one is showing how someone's giving the idea versus someone actually doing it.
Yeah, great. Thanks for sticking with us, everyone. Appreciating that folks leaning into that ethos. Here we are and here we aren't. So today the focus will be on the 21st century Bloom's taxonomy when we dig into these apps. Let's see. Oh, my sound is no sound.
Uh-oh.
Just kidding. Kenny, I should have let you help me with that before, but that's okay. But here we go, form and function. So we're going to try something that is a little messy, and it may not work perfectly, and that's kind of the fun of this learning space together. We have options for breakouts. We are going to invite you into this slide deck with us. We're going to peel back all of the mystery, and we are going to assign you to some groups where you will be able to explore the applications via links, and you will be able to kind of memorialize your learning by way of, in groups, collecting your thoughts in a slide to share back. We're a nice, close group today, so we can probably do groups of 3. Maybe?
I think so. Yeah, I put the link to the slides in the chat.
Great. So the link to the slides is going to give you edit rights. Fine, we've got a copy of this, but I want you to be a little cautious. So if you're in there, it looks like you are because I can see all your little animals. We've got some seals, we've got some giraffes. I'm not even sure what that one is, but you're coming in. So you'll be assigned to a breakout group that's numbered 1, number 2, number 3, right? We'll probably have 5 breakout groups, I think.
Maybe 4 because the bunch of us are facilitating.
Yeah. And so you'll be assigned to one of the Bloom's areas. Each Bloom's area, this is creating, right? So it's at the top of that triangle, has underneath the slide the notes. There's a little peel back from the behind the curtains view of how we use teacher moves to bring you into this learning space together. We've got hyperlinks, right? of 3 popular places, tools, iPad, Android, and Google, where students do the learning. That's the tech that students use for that learning. And we've got friendly links for those tools. So in your groups, in your breakout, you will be clicking through these links. Then you will be processing like, how might a specific student experience this tool, and how might it help their learning and their process, and how might learning or using this application increase access points for this student. So you'll be asked to consider a specific student. We've got Sam, we've got Alex, and we've got Bailey. And we also, when you get your groups, it will say you've got Sam, and then you'll just click over this please add how Sam might benefit, and you can go ahead and maybe make some bullets. Maybe you don't like bullets, but you can just, start typing here. I think we're ready for breakouts. Am I ready for breakouts?
I can do them if you want. That's fine.
Yeah, let's do breakouts. Set those up.
Hold on. I actually don't think I have. I don't think I can do breakouts now that I said that.
Ooh, I don't either. We might need some help.
I'll help you.
Great.
Only the host can do it.
So we were going to do what, 5? We don't have Mia, and then there's 4 or 5 of us, so 6 people. So we really got about 12.
Right. How did that go? Let's do a little processing. Any takeaways?
It was interesting to really think about how these everyday tools can help students in particular situations, right? I think for me, or I don't know if it's the same for the entire group, Google Voice was kind of, would you use that also in the classroom, or you wouldn't use it in the classroom? And is that the first choice that you would use to communicate as a communicator?
It was just interesting to collaborate the ideas, and talking about Canva and Google Voice. And some of us popped up with the same idea at the same time. So we were like, actually, as teachers, thinking the same way, the same route. So, and then just to get ideas of different, because I never used Canva. I believe I used Google Voice maybe once, but not so often where I know how to use it that well. And technology is something that I'm learning every day. So this was just great because now I can instill this into my lessons more often. So that's great.
Great, thank you. I don't know if you noticed this, but it happened in the group that I was in, where you sort of start to think about, we organized this as Bloom's levels, right? And then we asked you to sort of map that to students as you played around with tools. But I found our group needed, I think it was helpful when we got to that. We went to the slide where you was organized by device, because that's sort of, you're stuck with whatever device you have. And then you could look at all the things by device and kind of think about Bloom's that way. So, and some of them lend themselves so well to working with lots of different students. Like we were talking about ThingLink in ours, and just how you could use that for remembering. You could use it for analysis. So just so many different ways to play around with the same technology to assist all kinds of different kids' needs. I'll be quiet though, because I'm supposed to be listening right now.
So I just want to pose a question to the group. With all of these, they are offering like a lot of supports for our students, and definitely needed. I do struggle, or not struggle, but I do also think about, okay, like this is the future, but also becoming too reliant on these things that are making things like easier for us. I think it's a fine line, like where is it that like we are just making everything easier and taking away some of the skill development? Or maybe not, I don't know.
think like that's a really good question to think about. And the way that I sort of position technology in the classroom is that there's like high tech, right? We're on Zoom right now participating in a full classroom lesson. Jamboard came up in our session. And like, yeah, so now we're using digital chalkboards, right? And then there's low technology where if you're using Google Documents and you can put a little comment into a student's message, like maybe you're using Post-its, and that's the same kind of technology. It's just a little more tangible. So I challenge you to kind of broaden how you are interpreting technology, because they can be little moves that are still technology that are helping your students get access to content. But yeah, when we're trading skills out for, we want students to try technology that maybe looks like this or like this versus like this. We want students to leave us with all of those skills. So we need to think about where in our classrooms there are gaps and how to close those gaps so they're leaving with as many solid skills as possible, right? If we give them a sampling of all of them, they're not going to master any of them. But if we help choose appropriate technologies and we align them with the content we're delivering, then the impact is awesome. For example, so there's a question in here about Google Voice. I use it all the time. Just texting is a platform. I also happen to work for New York City Department of Education, and we're trying to graduate 80,000 seniors. And 60% of them don't have the high school credits they need to graduate. And they're not replying to our emails anymore. And they're not, we're meeting them on Twitter. We're even meeting them on TikTok, but we need a text campaign. So we're able to use a platform like Google Voice to kind of anonymize who we are, but personalize an experience for them to help them find their pathway. And so tools like Google Voice, where it can be integrated with your Google Suite already, but anonymizes your personal phone number with the ease of being on the same device that you're typically using. So you don't have to bring an extra phone, but you get a bonus phone number that you can use with your parents, with your colleagues, it's very easy for me to transition to remote because I didn't have to change my phone number. I used my Google phone number last year, my Google Voice number last year, and I use it this year, and I'll use it next year. And so it made that part of the transition a little more seamless. So 2 for 1 there.
And then just a question, can you group text on Google Voice?
Yes.
So if I wanted to text a class, I could. Okay.
That might not be like your best platform. There's a host of options that might be a better fit. Schools use programs like Signalvine.
I also want to say just one thing about technology, assistive technology, right? Having just done this year mostly virtually with students who have IEPs that happen to be my children, that that difficulty there of having needs met in a remote setting taught me that as an online instructor, we can take some of these tools and use them as support systems that our special educators going out in the world know how to use, or our teachers know how to use. And then they can be the extra help that kids get at home, right? It's like kind of the missing piece from really good online instruction that happened as every teacher learned how to do it this year. But if you have something that, lets you communicate with families better, or lets that student ask for help, or takes away the reading element of something that's challenging, there's just so many options. It's difficult to stay on top of them, but while they're free, getting to know as many as you can be really, really helpful. And I think I'm looking at teaching teachers to use these things more organically, whether they're teaching remotely or not, as a supplemental piece of what they're doing, or a supplemental way that they connect with families and communities that they work in. So that's my 2 cents of, as I did this with Katie, what happened in my head.
So 30 seconds I'm like negative 30 seconds, but in the negative 30 seconds, we're now presenting all of the technologies we threw at you and explored with you today, all in 60 minutes. So you had a good taste of all of these, which are free technologies. You have access to the deck because we gave it to you. I'm gonna pull back the edit access so everyone can can hold on to this deck. But there are little moves in here. There's big technologies like Zoom, and then there are little moves like activate the chat, right? And then there were the technologies and the applications that you explored in the breakouts. We're going to throw a couple more at you. I want to revisit the framing questions, right? So I want you to, we're asking you, this is where we want to activate you. Like, what maybe 2 tools would you like to try in your classroom? And even if it's not your classroom, because I know we had a number of folks in here who are not teaching, but what pieces of technology will enhance your life, right? And which ones are you excited to just try tomorrow because they're free and now you know about them? And then
this site that you guys have that you shared with the like Schrock's guide, it's got all the Bloomin' apps. That's awesome. That's wonderful.
This is a lot of stuff. And I never heard of any of them except for maybe Poll Junkie, because I think they used it in my school because they do polls. But I'm gonna try every one of them, and tomorrow I'll probably start with one just to see how it works. But I'm not even familiar with what they do until I get them. So I think that I'm gonna try maybe tomorrow. Maybe I'll try just to make sure it's the same thing, Poll Junkie, and then go on from Slido and Simple Mind and keep going on, just trying it each day. We have like 2 more, like a week and a half, so try one each day.
yeah, and it won't be perfect, right? The journey of learning is not perfect. I tried to share a YouTube video and the sound didn't play, and you know what? You just keep it moving. And then what kind of techie, as in like technology, teacher moves were you able to pick up? Maybe like breakouts, maybe.
I'm gonna co-teach and insert a prompt here. So teacher moves. When Katie and I built the slides together, one thing I love about watching Katie teach and plan is that she always thinks like a teacher and a student at the same time. And so maybe not at the same time, but she does both and thinks on that. So when you look through the slide deck, you can see that we've highlighted strategies that we were working on in each of the slides in purple. And then tools, I think, are also in a different color because Katie's more organized than me. So color coded. But you can look through and you can see where you are applying different strategies. If the teacher moves weren't always clear to you because you were in learner mode, you can go back and look through the slides and see what those purposeful teacher moves were that we were practicing, like warming you up and things like that. But also, yeah, agenda as a system and a structure, try using it as a checklist. You saw we revisited it later in the slide deck to kind of show you where we were, which is really good for kids who need that attending support, or adults at 4:30, 5 o'clock. But just so you know, it's there.
We also use the notes in here just as a tool. And here are some strategies. So in the top of the slides, you'll catch those. I'm hoping to end with some formal feedback because I love feedback because this can always be better. And we'd like to know what you're leaving us with. So we're gonna give you a QR code. And if the QR code is not your jam, Virginia's gonna drop this bit.ly into your computer so you can click on it and fill out the quick poll, which should look familiar because they're your learning targets. And boom, we just hit you with so much technology. But it didn't hurt. Should I make this bigger? I can make this bigger.
Ooh, and I love that because you can prepare it before versus in
Struggling.
Zoom. You have to before, like versus struggling. That is that's brilliant.
Yeah, the Zoom poll it's like made me gun shy about using it because I hate the sweat while you wait and they watch you type. And you can never do it while they're in breakout because they have questions or you want to visit around. So it's just, this is great.
Brilliant.
And Katie, what did you use to make the QR code? Oh, there's a slide that shows them how to do that.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. I use Poll Junkie, which you can find in the bottom of this slide as a strategy. Everything is hyperlinked. Hyperlinks are a part of my superhero sauce when working with students with disabilities because it unclutters the space, focuses their attention, and really pulls out exactly what I want them to work on. I link a form and it says form. And they're like, oh, the form. Like, look, I'm even having you use academic language.
Right.
I tricked you. But if there, I mean, we can open it up to the crew. Any questions for us? This was really fun to work on with Virginia. You know, we collaborate all the time, but this is actually the first time we've co-taught anything.
Hope it wasn't obvious. But that's good modeling too, right? Sometimes it's clunky. Any questions from anybody? Do you think about things, specific tools, strategies, or any questions you have thinking about students you've worked with?
I have a question regarding, I'm not sure if anyone is familiar with any apps that might be familiar for music, general music classroom, or even band. I mean, I can imagine that it's not as easy and it depends maybe on the disability or on the student. But any app that you suggest is best for music educators?
I just put Quaver in the chat. I don't know if you know about Quaver, but there's a code that teachers get that you can share with your students and they can go and do exercises and earn things to, you know, I'm not sure the extent of how much is free and how much costs money, but I know teachers that use Quaver that their kids learn.
And Belina, I should share with you that on edTrends, actually their site is remoteed.org. We are building out this summer a section for music educators. We recently have on our team a volunteer who is actually building that out so that there are more resources for those who are teaching in music education.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And we have over 2,000 free and curated resources on remoteed.org. So I would encourage you, if you're looking for resources that are electronic, such as the things that were shared today, they're also available on the site. Well, this has been a wonderful presentation. Wouldn't you everyone agree?
Yes.
Yeah, so I would like to thank our presenters, Katie and Virginia, for a wonderful presentation today. I hope you join us or continue to join us in our series in July and August. So again, thank you. And I also would like to thank our facilitators, Gina and Kenny. And this has been a wonderful collaboration with the School of Education at the University of Albany and Hunter College, a City University of New York. A SUNY and a CUNY come together. So with that, I want to wish everyone a good night and health and happiness until next time on edTrends.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you all. Bye, everyone. Thanks.
Good night.
Thanks so much.